Have you always wanted to learn a new language, but didn't know where and how to start? Or have you always wondered how some people are able to speak several languages fluently and how they learned them? People who speak many different languages, so-called polyglots, usually impress us with their ability to speak more languages than we do and their possibility to communicate with people from different parts of the world. I assume that if you clicked on this video, it is because you are interested in learning a new language and want to know some tips and tricks from other people, and in this case me, on how we learned several languages. The good news is, if you want to be able to do this too, there's no magic or weird science behind it, but rather different methods and systems that you can easily learn and apply. Let us explore some of them in this video together, and I will also detail how I was able to learn 6 different languages and speak 5 of them fluently today. So obviously I speak English, aber einer meiner 2 Muttersprachen ist Deutsch. Yo parlo français à la maison y también hablo mucho español porque estoy en Colombia ahora. Também sei falar português. Alright, let's dive right into the video with my number 1 tip. Expose yourself as much as possible to the language. To learn a new language, you need to know how it sounds, how people speak, how they put the accent on some words or the different nuances, and pick up the pronunciation. The easiest way to do this is through music, movies, and videos. This step is actually pretty easy to do, but so important in the language learning process. Regarding music, try to listen to different songs, different artists, and different genres of music. Nowadays, people are listening to music all the time, so just add some new songs to your playlist and listen to them whether you are at home, exercising, in your car, or just walking through the streets with your headphones on. Bonus tip, if you can, read the lyrics to the song you are listening to. Regarding movies, series, and videos, I recommend a multi-step approach. Let's take the example that you already know English and want to learn Spanish. First, watch the movie or series in English and add the subtitles in the language you want to learn. In this example, Spanish. Second, do the inverse. Watch movies in Spanish and add subtitles in the language you know, so here English. Finally, watch the movie with the audio and the subtitles in the language you are learning. Bonus tip regarding movies and series. Watch series that have different scenes in different languages. For example, Narcos is 50-50 English and Spanish, and this series has helped me personally a lot in learning Spanish. That way you don't have to focus 100% of the time on trying to understand the language you're learning, but have some rest. Right, let's get to tip number 2. Learn the basics. By basics, I mean easy words that will help you understand and have a small conversation. For example, greetings, numbers, asking for one's name, ordering in a restaurant, and so on. Why is this so important? If you can't understand the basics of a language, can't recognize a single word in a sentence, then you will get frustrated very quickly. But if you learn a few words to form simple sentences, then you will see almost immediate progress, and this will help you stay motivated. Additionally, this will make watching movies in a foreign language much easier and will also help you with the following tips. To learn the basics, I would probably recommend common language learning apps such as Duolingo, Babbel, Follow, and so on. However, you can also rely on YouTube videos and TikToks. The next tip is one of the most important ones, and one I didn't follow when learning Portuguese, which was a huge mistake. Practice speaking. Try to speak as much as possible in the language you are learning. Force yourself to come up with the words in the language or try to explain them if you don't know the exact word. At first, this will feel uncomfortable and tedious because you will be speaking very slowly and missing many words. But this is one of the must-dos to learn a language. Theory is good, but practice is the most important. When I was living in Brazil and learning Portuguese, I was ashamed to speak the language. Because of my accent, I have a very strong French accent when I speak Portuguese, and I thought that people would sometimes not understand me or make fun of how I pronounce certain words. If you have the same fear, get it out of your head. I learned Spanish after Portuguese, and this time I didn't make this mistake, and I learned so much faster and feel much more confident now speaking Spanish than Portuguese. If you're wondering how to find other people to practice your language, there are tons of options. Make friends with people speaking the language in your local area. Go to language exchanges. Find a language buddy online. And if you're not already in the country where they speak the language, go to the country and practice with locals. Before we get to tip number 4, if you're getting value out of this video or learning new things, give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. and let me know in the comments if you want to see more of this kind of content. Tip number 4, reading. This tip will certainly please more the introverts, but it is important for everybody to follow. Reading books, short stories, news articles, or anything else will help you learn new words and understand how sentences are formed. Start with easy books or short texts, which demand not too much focus. Try to understand the meaning of each sentence and then of each word. If you are reading a book, use an online translator, or even better, a dictionary to look up words you don't know or understand. Bonus tip. I personally like to read the news, and one easy way to read short text in a foreign language is to follow some newspapers in your foreign language on Instagram and read the caption. Try to understand everything and then just use the automatic Instagram translation to verify if you understood everything or look up the words you didn't know. Tip number 5 is writing. You can start writing right from the beginning. However, I recommend to start once you have a small base of words and can form at least simple sentences. Writing has many different advantages, such as improved vocabulary retention. Writing helps you reinforce new words and phrases as you actively recall and use them in context. Enhanced grammar understanding. Constructing sentences in writing allows you to practice grammar rules and identify areas where you need to improve. You can also take your time to reflect on sentences structure and learn from mistakes. And it encourages active learning. Writing requires active engagement with the language, encouraging critical thinking and creativity. Unlike passive activities such as listening, writing makes you a participant in the learning process. The next tip might be a bit surprising and seem a bit funny maybe, because it is to sing. Yes, singing is a great way to learn and practice a new language. One great advantage of singing is that it mimics the natural rhythm, tone, and melody of the language, which helps you improve your pronunciation and reduce your accent. Another one is it improves your vocabulary and phrase retention. In general, singing something helps you memorize it much easier. For example, many people know the lyrics of hundreds of songs but don't even know a single poem. Even for numbers or formulas, it is much easier to remember them with a melodic tune. So these are the 2 great advantages of singing. Practice your pronunciation and remember new words and phrases easily. Let's come to tip number 7, consistency and repetition. It is so important that you follow this tip. All the previous tips are useless if you don't apply them consistently and repeat your new learnings over and over again. It is very easy to forget the language, and this usually occurs if you don't practice it. Therefore, you have to practice over and over again and be consistent. Set yourself a realistic learning goal for every day. If you don't have much time, try to do 5 minutes every day instead of half an hour once a week. Consistency and repetition are key to learning a new language correctly and efficiently. Alright, tip number 8 and the last one is maybe the most importantly and certainly the most effective one. But I know that not everybody can make use of it. But if you can, you should. And it is to spend as much time as possible in the country of the language you are learning. So if you're learning Chinese, go to China. If you're learning Spanish, go to Mexico, Spain, or whatever country where everybody speaks Spanish, and so on. This will force you to use the language and apply it immediately and apply what you have learned. Especially if it is a country where English is not so common, you will have to use the language all the time. I cannot stress this enough, but speak with the locals and you will see very fast progress. And at this point I want to tell you a bit more about my personal experience. So I was born in Germany, which helped me of course with learning German. I went to a German kindergarten, German school, and that's how very easily I could learn German. When I was 6, I moved to China, and living there, especially as a small kid, I learned Chinese pretty fast. It's a hard language, yes, but it's possible to learn, and even my parents, who were around 40 at that time, managed to learn Chinese. But the key thing was to live in China for 7 years, and this helped a lot because we interacted every day with Chinese people in Chinese, so it's a huge advantage. To learn Portuguese, I went to Brazil. I lived there for 3.5 years again. At that time I was 13, 14 years old, so I wasn't that young anymore, but it still helps with learning a new language to be a bit younger. But when I was 22, which is already considered not young anymore to learn a language, I started learning Spanish. And I did it first with some songs and movies and series, as I said before, but the main point, or what helped me most, was doing a trip through Latin America and I started with Mexico, and once I was in Mexico, my learning got so much faster. It was so much easier to speak with people every day, learn new vocabulary, learn new sentences, and that's why it's so important to go to a country where they speak the language, and that way you will learn much faster. Alright, this is already the end of the video, but I want you to remember one thing. Everybody learns differently. Use what works best for you and adapt all the tips from this video to your learning style. This video is not a one-size-fits-all solution. Rather, I wanted to provide you with some tips of how I learned 6 languages and how you can do it too. If you enjoyed this video and learned some new things, I would be very happy about a like. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. And tell me in the comments which language you are learning and which tips seem particularly helpful for you. Alright, see you next time.